Today we're going to use Tinkercad to make a puzzle and a storage box, so let's get cracking. Today we're going to start at my website, HLModTech.com. I've got a page dedicated to Tinkercad with all sorts of awesome categories. Also the day one favorites, the useful starters, and the Tinkercad essentials. Today we can simply click the link to the digital library. So let me explain the library super quick. It is a Google Sheet where I'm taking my content, more than 5,000 videos, and make it easier to find what you're looking for. Level 1 is kind of beginner, level 2 gets a little fancier. Today we're going to bounce all the way out to level 4 where you can find the free files. Today's free file I want to highlight is the Puzzle Maker template. Simply click right here to get to the file. This project is of course free and set to copy and tinker. Don't forget the golden rule of Tinkercad. Give a reaction before you copy and tinker. So in the template, what you get is an SVG that's going to cut whatever you put in it to a puzzle that we can 3D print. I have scaled this to a size where these are relatively thin, but they do end up being separate when you've finished. You can see right here in the little clip, me actually assembling my puzzle I made. Let me walk you through the steps that got me to this project. All right, so step 1 is you need to find a SVG file that you want to make. I had a user that reached out asking how to turn this mushroom house into a box. That's going to be part of this tutorial as well. To make this puzzle, I just brought in a cube and I set it to 148 by 148, and I did a height of 1.2. I want this to print relatively fast, but what I'm going to tell you is the thicker you make these, like if this back was actually too high, these would snap together a little bit easier. Once again, since mine is a prototype, I am more interested in speed. Next, I used the work plane. You can see here, W for work plane. I put this SVG on top. I do have the quality maxed out. You can see I made this 1mm high, so we've got a total of 2.2. And then to wrap up the puzzle, we just do Control G to union group. Now this is complex. It's cutting all of those little grooves in there. You need to make sure you're patient. If it ever takes longer than 60 seconds, and I did have that happen when I tried to make a more complex project, simply back out because Tinkercad actually saves it in the queue. When you re-enter, it restarts that union group, and then bang, after a moment, your part is cut out. If we zoom all the way in, you can see that we've got our different layers. That's it. We have now got a puzzle. Let me show you how to print it. Of course, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to do export, and I'm going to choose STL. Once again, plan on a little bit of time to wait for this as well. And the same thing applies if you wait more than 60 seconds, just back out and start again. Of course, mine worked. I'm going to call this V2, and I'm going to save the changes. I'm going to make one quick modification to this just so it looks a little cooler. If we turn on multicolor, boom, you have got a better view of how the parts are going to be differentiated. Now when we bounce to Bambu Lab Studio, I'm going to create a brand new project. Let's add our file. I had saved it as V2 Puzzle Maker. And then we are going to paint this using the awesome Paint Bucket tool. We want to switch to height range. And remember we made that first layer 1.2 high. I have got a green and a blue loaded. I'm going to put the green on the bottom. It's because I've got that 1.2. Check this out. I can simply look underneath, click, and bam, when we look at the top, our project is ready for 3D printing. How cool is that? All because we knew the number. If we hit slice plate, notice we'll have an awesome 15 centimeter puzzle in about an hour and 50 minutes. All right, so those are the puzzle steps. Now let me show you the box. We are going to back out of this project. I'm going to click on the gear and I'm going to duplicate it. I do not want to wreck my puzzle, but I do want to make a box that has the mushroom house on it. First step is to ungroup. Then we can delete the red piece and the puzzle parts. And now we're going to use the sketch tool to make an awesome box. When you bring the sketch tool out, I do like to set it in a 20 by 20 grid. Doesn't really matter because of how large this project is. Once we're in, we need to zoom out and pan so that we can trace. Now, making a box with all this stuff around it would be annoying. We're going to simply go around the box as close as we want. If I hit number 2 to make a Bezier curve, I'm going to click right here, and I'm gonna click, hold, and just get that line close. I don't have to be perfect because I'm in charge of the box. Once again, I can go up here and click, hold, and twist because I'm in Bezier curve mode. Follow it closely. I am gonna keep the chimney. Once again, click, hold, and twist. This time, right here is where I'm going to switch and do a straight line by hitting number 1. Now I'm doing straight clicks, and I can also turn on my nudge so that I can get even closer if I want. I want to highlight again and again though, we are the boss. Yes, this shape is behind us, but it's really not going to be part of the box. Hit number 2, click, hold, and twist. Go to the other side, click, hold, and twist to get it exactly the way we want. We can also edit these when we're done. So right there, I hit number 1, 2, make a little Bezier curve. This one's kind of straight. I can come back here. I am still in number 2 mode, but I can make straight lines because of that corner. Here you can see I can click, hold, and twist to follow the top of the mushroom. Fewer points are better than more. And once again, if you go about halfway around each shape, you can see how it gets pretty darn easy to make these. Click the corner, click, hold, and twist. Right here, I want to really bend it. So I'm going to hit number 1 to go back to straight. I'm going to click and move it that way, hit number 2. And then I'm going to make a professional choice here. I don't care about that mushroom. I'm going right down to here. Notice that's going to be my wall. And then I'm going to go here, click, hold, and twist to finish my mushroom puzzle box. Finish sketch. And check it out. That looks like a mushroom house. This is going to be the bottom of the box. Let's press 2 to enter. All right, so I like that, but I want to just show you how to edit. I'm not really sure what I would change because I nailed that on the first try. But if you double click and double click again. All right, so when we zoom in, check it out. I do have a little glitch down here. Now, this is the tricky thing. This glitch, even though it looks like this point, is really this point. So what I'm going to do is take this smooth curve and press number 3 to make it a broken curve. Now I can bring that length down to where it's supposed to be, and we don't have that silly area. Now you can adjust all of these points, but once again, I got this pretty smooth on the first one, so I'm just going to leave it. I am going to do Control D to duplicate. We're going to edit that sketch. In the sketch, we're going to switch on the stroke. I'm going to choose to make the walls 1.2 millimeters thick, and I'm going to put them on the outside. Finish sketch, change the height. I'm going to choose to make it 35 high. After testing, I was able to fit all of my parts in just like that. Bang! Puzzle box. I'm going to real quickly get rid of those notes so they're not in my vision. And let me show you something else super cool. Because these are sketches, we can scale them. So right now this is almost 13 centimeters across. If I grab both of these and I shift shrink, I have found that I can get it down to about 100 and all the pieces still fit in. I'm going to grab these two and move them up here. I'm also going to do Control D and move the second copy down here. And let me show you how we make the puzzle box top. First, take the height and I'm going to set it to 10 and press enter. This is how far this is going to push in. Now I'm going to edit the sketch. And all we need to do is switch it to the inside instead of the outside. Finish sketch. And this will be a perfect fit for the inside. Now you probably want to trim it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to do Control D. I do want to raise this up because I don't want to trim the bottom. So if I hit D to drop, you can see it's higher. I am going to make it a hole. We're going to edit the sketch. And I want a pretty tight fit. So under the stroke settings, I'm going to set this to 0.2 and press enter. And I'll also set it to the center line and hit finish. You may find you want to trim off 0.4 so that it's 2/10 on each side. I'm going to stay with 0.2. Now before we quit on this, we're going to do one more thing. Control D. We're going to take the second one and edit the sketch. And we want to set it to be on the outside and hit finish sketch. I'm going to click on that outside and I'm going to set it to 2 millimeters thick. And now we can grab all those parts and do Control G to union group. Bang! We've got a lid that's going to slide in there and stop right at that lip. How cool is that? Now we're going to flip this over and set up the top. You can simply click the flip button and we want to flip it vertically. I'm going to do show all to bring back the whole puzzle. And now we can take our SVG and we can set it on top. W for work plane, D for drop. And then I'm going to shift scale to get it so it fits. Simply shrink that down so it's inside the design. I'm going to check and make sure this is a 0.5 millimeter thick. And then we're going to cut this in so we can print it face down. To do that, we're going to do Control D and we're going to make one a hole. I'm going to switch my nudge to 0.5. And since I've got the hole selected, I can do Control down and you can see it is in the design. Real quickly, I'm going to click on this one and hide it. Now we can grab those two and do Control G. It takes a moment for it to cut out, but now if I do show all, our other part is visible. And if we do Control down arrow, you can see it sinks in, so it's ready to print flush. I'm going to put the work plane back down on the ground. This time I'm going to rotate it to flip it, just to show you both ways. So it's 22.5 degrees per turn, but if you hold down shift, it's 45. So you can do the full 180 degrees a little quicker. Now we do want to export these as separate parts for printing in color. I'm going to quickly change the name to Puzzle Box, and then I'm going to click just this piece, and I'm going to choose Export STL. And in my 3D modeling folder, I'm going to call this Puzzle Box Top and save. Now I'm going to click on the art and choose Export STL and change it to Puzzle Box Art. I will let you know you could use OBJ files. I just don't like them. And then I'm going to grab these and choose Export as Puzzle Box. And I'll call this one the base or the bottom. And save it. Now in Bambu Lab Studio, I'm going to delete what we had going, and I'm going to add both of the top pieces. I do like to print these as separate parts. That way there's less time with the color swaps and stuff. I'm going to load them as a single object, multiple parts. I'm going to use 0.2 standard settings, and I'm going to paint with the object settings. Now I printed the art blue, so I'm going to keep it blue, and I'm going to make the top green. If we look underneath, bang, that is our project. If we hit slice plate, we are looking at 41 minutes to have the top of our project printed. I've, of course, already done that, so I'm going to simply go back to prepare and delete. And let me show you how long it takes to print the bottom. Puzzle box base. I'll leave this one blue, slice plate, and we're looking at another 34 minutes before we have our printed box. Of course, here we are a couple hours later. The moment of truth. How cool is that? And here we are with the finished project. As you can see, fits on nice and snug. And of course, the pieces fit inside. Now, I'm not going to assemble it for you because it does take time. I do have a video you can watch where I did. I do also want to show you here. This was one of my test prints. I simply took the puzzle and I cut off a chunk so I didn't have to print the whole puzzle to find out if I liked that fit. That is a super slick technique as you're trying to build your own. Another thing I want to highlight is make sure you have your colors right. When I first printed it, I had it backwards, so the entire time I was trying to solve the puzzle, you can see here green is the back, so it makes sense. I had to completely convert that in my head, which was really a poor choice. But as you can tell from the video, I did solve it. I do want to highlight finding a way to do the project with two colors does keep it a lot faster, which if you're trying to sell them, that's probably a smart technique. As I wrap up, I want to send a huge shout out to Dave, and I'm sorry I don't remember the person that asked for the puzzle, but thank you so much for this project. I love when questions nudge me into an area I wasn't even thinking of, and they turn out pretty darn awesome. Of course, this is only two colors. To do more colors, you would have to have more layers, and the more cuts you do, the more complex it gets, but I think you could make these as fancy as you want. Of course, I do want to quickly say thank you to everybody that supports me via YouTube memberships. Don't forget there are 3 different levels of support starting as low as $5 a month. With any level of support, you get early access to videos. Make sure you also pay attention for those members only posts. A massive shout out as well to everybody that supports me via Patreon. Love how that group is growing. It is a fantastic messaging area. You can ask questions, post designs, gain skills. Of course, you can learn more with the bit.ly up above or the link in the description. Finally, friends, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget every time you like, hype, share a video, add a comment down below, or click subscribe. You're helping HLModTech get just a little bit bigger, which absolutely makes my day. Friends, have a glorious day and keep tinkering.